الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. My brothers and sisters, let me ask you something very honestly. How many times have you felt broken not because of what happened but because of who you expected to stay? How many nights did your heart feel heavy not because Allah took something away but because you were clinging to something Allah never promised would remain? We suffer deeply in this world for one simple reason. We attach our peace to people. We expect consistency from human beings, permanence from temporary hearts, and loyalty from those who are themselves struggling. And when they change, when they leave, when they disappoint us, we feel lost. But today I want to remind you of a powerful truth. There is a freedom that comes when you stop needing anyone more than you need Allah. And this freedom does not make you cold. It makes you strong. It makes you peaceful. It makes you whole. One people were never meant to carry your heart. My brothers and sisters, this is a truth that many of us learn only after being hurt and sometimes after being broken. Allah did not create human beings to be the center of your emotional survival. He did not design people to hold your peace, your stability, and your sense of worth in their hands. People were created to walk with you, not to carry you. They were meant to accompany you on parts of your journey, not to replace your reliance on Allah. When you place your happiness in another person, you quietly hand them power over your heart. You tell them without words, if you stay, I am okay. If you leave, I collapse. That is a dangerous transaction because you are giving fragile beings a responsibility they cannot fulfill. Human beings change, their moods change, their priorities change, their capacity changes, even their intentions change. Not always because they are bad people, but because they are human. They have limits. They get tired. They become distracted. They grow in different directions. And when your emotional survival depends on their consistency, your heart lives in constant fear. That fear shows itself in many ways. You overthink messages. You panic at silence. You tolerate disrespect because you are afraid of being alone. You shrink yourself to remain acceptable. You stop being honest because honesty might cause distance. Slowly, without realizing it, you lose your inner balance. This is why people disappoint you. This is why they fail you. This is why they leave. Not because they woke up wanting to destroy you, but because they were never meant to be the foundation of your heart in the first place. Allah never promised that people would remain. He never guaranteed that relationships would stay unchanged. But He did promise something else, that whoever places their trust in Him, He is sufficient for them. When you expect people to stabilize your heart becomes fragile. It cracks under the smallest change. A delayed reply feels like rejection. A disagreement feels like abandonment. A shift in energy feels like betrayal. This is not strength. This is vulnerability disguised as love. Real strength begins when your heart has one anchor, not many. When your emotional center is Allah, people can be close without becoming your lifeline. They can leave without destroying you. They can disappoint you without breaking you. This does not mean you stop loving. Islam does not teach emotional coldness. It teaches emotional balance. Love people, yes. Care for them, yes. Be kind, yes. But do not make them the reason your heart feels safe. When a believer understands this, something powerful happens. They stop begging for consistency from creation and start seeking it from the Creator. They stop chasing reassurance from people and start finding calm in remembrance. They stop asking, why did they change, and start asking, what is Allah teaching me? This shift is not easy. It feels uncomfortable at first. Detachment feels like loss to a heart that is used to clinging. But over time, it brings peace that attachment never could. When Allah is your anchor, your self-worth no longer rises and falls with people's behavior. You do not feel valuable only when someone chooses you. You do not feel invisible when someone ignores you. You know who you are because Allah knows you. You know your worth because Allah created you with purpose. This is why Islam teaches us to return our hearts again and again to Allah. 5 daily prayers are not just rituals, they are reminders. They pull your heart back from people, from expectations, from disappointments, and place it where it belongs. A heart anchored in Allah is not easily shaken. It may feel pain, but it does not fall apart. It may grieve, but it does not lose direction. It may be tested, but it remains dignified. My brothers and sisters, some of the pain you experienced in your life was not because you loved too deeply. It was because you relied too deeply on something that was never meant to be your foundation. Allah allows that pain so you learn where your heart truly belongs. When you finally understand this lesson, relationships become lighter. You stop holding people responsible for your inner state. You stop resenting them for being human. You stop demanding permanence from what was always temporary. You become freer, calmer, stronger. People can still walk with you, but your heart no longer rests on their shoulders. It rests with Allah alone. And that is where it was always meant to be. Too neediness drains dignity. My brothers and sisters, there is a silent problem that destroys hearts long before it destroys relationships. It is not hatred, it is not anger, it is neediness. Neediness is when your inner stability depends on someone else's response. When your peace rises and falls based on who checks on you, who chooses you, who stays close, and who gives you attention. This state is dangerous because it slowly drains your dignity without you even noticing. Islam never taught us to live this way. There is a difference between love and dependence, and many people confuse the two. Love is something you give freely, without fear. Dependence is something you cling to because you are afraid. Love is strength. Dependence is insecurity dressed up as emotion. When you need people in order to feel whole, you begin making compromises that damage your self-respect. You excuse behavior that hurts you. You tolerate silence that wounds you. You accept disrespect just to avoid being alone. And every time you do this, a piece of your dignity quietly disappears. Neediness makes you chase what should come naturally. You over-explain yourself. You seek reassurance again and again. You replay conversations in your mind, wondering what you did wrong. You start performing instead of being authentic. This is exhausting for the heart. And the painful truth is this: neediness rarely pulls people closer. It usually pushes them away. Not because they are cruel, but because neediness carries a weight that no human being wants to carry. When someone feels responsible for your emotional survival, it becomes overwhelming. Slowly, they distance themselves, and then you feel rejected. But the root problem was never their distance. It was your dependence. A believer is not meant to live like this. Allah honored you with dignity. He created you with worth that does not require constant validation. When you forget this, you begin seeking value from people instead of remembering that your value was given to you by Allah before anyone ever knew your name. This is why Islam emphasizes self-respect. The Prophet ﷺ never taught us to humiliate ourselves emotionally. He taught us to rely on Allah, to stand firm, and to maintain our dignity even in hardship. When you stop needing people, something remarkable happens. You stop begging for attention. You stop chasing explanations. You stop trying to convince others of your worth. You speak less, but with clarity. You walk away sooner, without bitterness. You protect your heart without becoming harsh. This is not arrogance. This is self-respect. Some people think that detachment means becoming cold. This is not true. Detachment means loving without desperation, caring without losing yourself, being present without fear of loss. When your heart is no longer needy, your relationships become healthier. You give from fullness, not from emptiness. You are not with people because you cannot survive without them, but because you choose them. And choice is far more powerful than need. My brothers and sisters, ask yourselves honestly, how many times did you stay silent because you were afraid of being left? How many times did you lower your standards because you didn't want to start over? How many times did you betray your own peace just to keep someone close? This is what neediness costs you. Allah does not want you living in fear of people. He wants you living in trust of Him. When your heart is connected to Allah, you stop clinging to creation. You stop expecting them to fill a space they were never meant to fill. Your dignity returns when you remember who you belong to. A heart that relies on Allah does not panic when people pull away. It does not beg when attention fades. It does not collapse when relationships end. It understands that whatever leaves was never the source of its strength. This does not mean you feel nothing. You may feel sadness, you may feel loss, but you do not feel humiliation. You do not feel desperation. You do not feel empty. Because your heart was never built on people to begin with. My brothers and sisters, when Allah removes neediness from your heart, He replaces it with calm. When He removes desperation, He replaces it with clarity. When He removes fear of people, He replaces it with trust in Him. And once that happens, you no longer beg to be chosen. You become someone who chooses wisely. And that is a level of freedom many never reach. 3. Allah sometimes removes people to save you. My brothers and sisters, one of the hardest realities to accept in life is that not every separation is a loss. Some separations are protection, some endings are mercy, and some people are removed from your life not because you failed, but because Allah intervened. We often assume that closeness is always good and distance is always bad. But Allah, in His wisdom, sees what we cannot see. He sees what influence people have over your heart, your choices, and your direction. He sees how certain relationships slowly weaken you, distract you, or pull you away from who you are meant to become. Sometimes Allah allows someone to stay close to you for a season. They teach you something, they reveal something within you, and then their role ends. But instead of accepting that the season has passed, we cling, we resist. We beg Allah to keep what He has already decided to remove. This resistance is what causes pain. When Allah removes someone, He often does it quietly. Not through arguments, not through drama, but through distance. Conversations become shorter, energy changes, comfort fades, and you feel confused because no clear reason was given. But clarity does not always come through explanation. Sometimes it comes through acceptance. My brothers and sisters, Allah does not take something away without replacing it with something better for your soul. The replacement may not look like what you expected. It may not be another person. It may be strength. It may be clarity. It may be closeness to Allah that you never had before. Some people leave because their presence was delaying your growth. You were comfortable but stagnant. You were attached but distracted. You were emotionally invested but spiritually drained. Allah sees this long before you do. So He creates distance. You think you lost love, but Allah saved your direction. You think you lost support, but Allah restored your independence. You think you lost connection, but Allah rebuilt your reliance on Him. Not everyone who was removed was harmful in an obvious way. Some were kind, some meant well. But not everyone who is good for your emotions is good for your akhirah. Not everyone who brings comfort brings guidance. This is why Allah sometimes separates you from people you love, not because He wants to hurt you, but because He wants to protect what you are becoming. When you look back at your life honestly, you will see it. Certain people were present during confusion, others during weakness, others during distraction, and when Allah began correcting your path, those people could no longer stay. This is not rejection, this is redirection. A believer understands that Allah is Al-Latif, the most gentle. Even His removals are gentle. He does not tear things away suddenly unless necessary. He loosens them slowly, giving you time to adjust, to grow, and to trust. But many of us misinterpret this mercy as abandonment. We blame ourselves. We question our worth. We ask what we did wrong. And in doing so, we miss the lesson entirely. My brothers and sisters, not every door that closes was meant to stay open, and not every relationship that ends was meant to continue. If someone leaving brought you closer to Allah, then that separation was not a loss. It was a gift. If distance removed a distraction, then that pain was purification. If loneliness pushed you to pray, reflect, and rebuild yourself, then that season was elevation. Allah does not remove people randomly. He removes them with precision, with wisdom, with love. Your responsibility is not to chase what Allah has taken away. Your responsibility is to ask, what is Allah protecting me from? And what is He preparing me for? When you understand this, resentment leaves your heart. You stop blaming people. You stop blaming yourself. You begin trusting the process. And slowly you realize something powerful. The people Allah removes were never meant to walk with the version of you. He is creating. And that realization brings peace that no explanation ever could. 4. Solitude is not abandonment. My brothers and sisters, one of the greatest fears people carry today is is the fear of being alone. Silence scares them. Distance makes them anxious. Being without constant connection feels like punishment. But Islam does not treat solitude as abandonment. It treats it as a space for purification. When Allah places you in a season of solitude, it is not because He forgot you, it is because He is preparing you. Noise hides truth. Crowds distract the heart. Constant interaction keeps you from hearing what your soul has been trying to say for a long time. Solitude removes the distractions. When you are alone, there is no one to impress, no one to perform for, no one to lean on emotionally. And in that space, your intentions become exposed. You begin to see yourself clearly without the comfort of validation or the illusion of belonging. This is uncomfortable at first. Many people rush to fill the silence because silence reveals what they have been avoiding. Unhealed wounds surface, insecurities rise, regrets speak, and instead of sitting with these truths, people escape into noise, relationships, and distractions. But the believer does not run from solitude. The believer understands that clarity often comes through stillness. Allah brought the Prophet ﷺ moments of solitude before responsibility. He allowed reflection before revelation, because the heart must be prepared before it can carry weight. Solitude is where sincerity is rebuilt. When no one is watching, your actions become honest. When no one is praising you, your intentions are purified. When no one is depending on you emotionally, you learn what reliance truly means. This is where your relationship with Allah deepens. You begin turning to Him not because you have no one else, but because you finally realize He was always enough. My brothers and sisters, solitude teaches you to sit with yourself without panic. It teaches you to face your thoughts without fear. It teaches you that your worth does not disappear when no one is present. In solitude, you stop defining yourself through roles. You are not someone's support system, not someone's expectation, not someone's emotional anchor. You are simply a servant of Allah, learning who you are without attachments. This is not loneliness. Loneliness is feeling empty even in a crowd. Solitude is being full even when alone. Allah sometimes removes people from around you so you can hear His guidance more clearly. When too many voices surround you, the heart becomes confused. Solitude quiets the chaos so direction can emerge. And something beautiful happens when you remain patient in this phase. You become comfortable with your own presence. You stop rushing to replace what was lost. You stop settling for connection out of fear. You begin choosing relationships from clarity, not desperation. A heart that has learned solitude is not easily shaken by distance. It does not collapse when plans change. It does not feel abandoned when silence appears. It knows that companionship is a gift, not a requirement for peace. My brothers and sisters, do not rush out of solitude just because it feels unfamiliar. Growth rarely happens in comfort. Strength is built where you are forced to rely on Allah alone. If Allah has placed you in a quiet season, do not waste it complaining. Use it reflecting. Use it healing. Use it rebuilding your connection with Him. Because once solitude teaches you its lesson, you no longer fear being alone. You fear losing your connection with Allah, and that is when solitude becomes strength, not sorrow. 5, attachment creates fear. Trust creates peace. My brothers and sisters, pay close attention to this reality. Every attachment that is not rooted in Allah eventually produces fear. Fear of loss, fear of change, fear of being replaced, fear of being forgotten. When your heart is tied tightly to people, situations, or outcomes, your mind lives in constant anxiety. This is why attachment is exhausting. You are always guarding what you fear losing. You monitor tone, you analyze behavior, you worry about tomorrow, you replay conversations, you try to control outcomes that were never in your control. Attachment tells your heart, if this disappears, I will not survive. And that belief creates panic long before anything actually happens. Islam does not teach us to live in fear. It teaches us to live in trust. Trust in Allah does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. It means you understand that everything in your life is a trust from Allah, not a possession you own. People are not owned. Relationships are not guaranteed. Situations are not permanent. When you accept this, fear begins to loosen its grip. A heart that trusts Allah understands that whatever stays was written to stay, and whatever leaves was written to leave. This belief does not make you passive, it makes you grounded. You still make effort, but you do not panic over outcomes. When attachment controls the heart, even blessings become sources of stress. You enjoy them, but you are afraid. You love people, but you worry constantly. You feel happy, but you brace yourself for loss. This is not peace. Peace comes when trust replaces attachment. When you know that Allah is managing your life better than you ever could. When you believe that even loss is guided, even pain is measured, and even delay has wisdom. A believer with trust does not live in constant anticipation of disaster. They live with acceptance. They know that Allah does not make mistakes. They know that what missed them was never meant for them, and what reached them could never have been avoided. This trust changes how you experience relationships. You stop fearing abandonment because you know Allah does not abandon. You stop fearing loss because you know Allah replaces. You stop fearing uncertainty because you know Allah sees what you cannot. When something ends, it hurts. Trust does not remove pain, but it removes panic. It removes desperation. It removes the feeling that your life has collapsed. My brothers and sisters, attachment whispers, hold tighter. Trust says, release and rely. Attachment makes you chase stability through people. Trust makes you find stability through Allah. And the more you practice trust, the quieter your heart becomes. You stop demanding guarantees from life. You stop asking for certainty in a world that was never meant to be permanent. You start focusing on obedience instead of outcomes, sincerity instead of security. This is where true peace lives. A heart attached to Allah may still feel pain, but it does not break. It may still lose, but it does not collapse. It may still grieve, but it does not despair, because it knows who it belongs to, and that knowledge is stronger than any fear attachment ever created. 6. Focusing on yourself is not selfish. My brothers and sisters, many people feel guilty when they hear the words, focus on yourself. They think it means neglecting others, becoming cold, or turning inward with arrogance. But this misunderstanding keeps people trapped in burnout, resentment, and emotional exhaustion. Islam does not teach you to disappear for others while neglecting your own soul. Focusing on yourself means taking responsibility for what Allah placed under your care, your heart, your actions, your intentions, your iman. These are not small matters, these are trusts. You cannot give clarity if you are confused. You cannot give peace if you are broken. You cannot give guidance if you are lost. When you neglect yourself in the name of being there for everyone else, you eventually become empty. And emptiness cannot sustain anyone. This is why many people grow resentful. They give too much without boundaries. They overextend emotionally. They sacrifice their peace for others and then feel unappreciated. The problem was never kindness. The problem was neglecting the self Allah entrusted to them. A believer understands balance. Focusing on yourself means strengthening your connection with Allah before seeking validation from people. It means correcting your character before correcting others. It means fixing your intentions before expecting sincerity from the world. When you focus on yourself in this way, you are not abandoning people. You are becoming someone who can be present without being drained. Islam teaches us accountability. You will not be asked why you saved everyone else. You will be asked how you lived, how you prayed, how you treated your heart, and how you carried your responsibilities. My brothers and sisters, focusing on yourself also means learning when to step back. Not every battle is yours to fight. Not every problem is yours to solve. Not every emotion around you requires your absorption. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to reflect. You are allowed to say no without guilt. This is not selfishness. This is wisdom. When you stop spreading yourself thin, your actions become more intentional. Your words become more meaningful. Your presence becomes more sincere. People often confuse availability with goodness, but being constantly available does not make you righteous. Being sincere, balanced, and grounded does. A heart that focuses on itself in the right way becomes disciplined. It learns restraint, it learns clarity, it learns patience, and from that place it gives more effectively. My brothers and sisters, when you focus on yourself, you stop seeking approval. You stop performing goodness. You stop exhausting yourself, trying to be everything for everyone. You begin acting from conviction, not pressure. This is why focusing on yourself brings peace. You are no longer pulled in every direction. You know your priorities, you know your limits, you know your purpose. And once your foundation is strong, whatever you give to others is genuine, not forced. Focusing on yourself is not about isolation, it is about alignment. Alignment with Allah, alignment with your values, alignment with who you are meant to be. And when alignment is restored, your life no longer feels chaotic. It feels intentional. And that is a mercy many people never allow themselves to experience. 7, the strongest heart needs Allah alone. My brothers and sisters, no matter how surrounded you are in this world, there is a moment every soul must face alone, not with friends, not with family, not with those who once promised to stay. There is a moment when every heart stands by itself before Allah. And this reality is not meant to frighten you, it is meant to free you. The strongest heart is not the one that has the most people around it. It is the one that knows where to turn when no one is there. Strength is not found in dependence. Strength is found in reliance on Allah alone. Many people spend their lives building emotional safety through others. They feel secure when someone checks on them. They feel confident when someone reassures them. They feel alive when someone chooses them. But this kind of strength is borrowed, and borrowed strength always expires. Allah wants to give you something better. He wants to give you a heart that does not collapse when people leave, a heart that does not lose direction when relationships end, a heart that remains steady when the world becomes uncertain. This is why Allah brings you to moments where you feel alone. Not to punish you, but to show you something about yourself, to show you that you have been outsourcing your strength, to show you that your heart was leaning where it was never meant to lean. When everyone steps back, Allah steps forward. In those quiet moments, when your phone is silent, when your heart feels exposed, when distractions no longer work, something profound happens. You begin turning inward. You begin speaking to Allah not with rehearsed words, but with honesty. You begin discovering a connection that was always there but never fully used. This is when dua becomes real, not decorative, not formal, but desperate, sincere and alive. This is when salah becomes refuge, not routine. This is when remembrance becomes comfort, not habit. A heart that needs Allah alone is not arrogant, it is humble, because it understands its weakness. It understands that no creation can protect it from loss, pain or death. Only Allah can. And once this realization settles, fear begins to leave. You stop fearing abandonment because you know Allah does not abandon. You stop fearing loneliness because you know Allah is Al-Qareeb, the most near. You stop fearing uncertainty because you know Allah controls what you cannot. This does not mean life becomes easy. Tests still come, pain still visits, loss still happens. But the heart does not panic the way it used to. It bends, but it does not break. My brothers and sisters, the strongest hearts are not loud. They are quiet. They do not announce their pain. They do not beg for attention. They do not chase reassurance. They have learned where reassurance truly comes from. They walk alone when necessary, without bitterness, without hatred, without pride. They do not isolate themselves out of anger, but out of clarity. They understand that sometimes distance is needed for strength to return. And when people return, they return by choice, not by need. When relationships form, they form without desperation. When love exists, it exists without fear. This is the heart Allah wants for you. A heart that loves deeply but relies wisely. A heart that connects but does not cling. A heart that feels but does not collapse. At the end of your journey, when titles disappear, when names fade, when people are no longer around, what will remain is your relationship with Allah. That relationship is not built in crowds, it is built in sincerity, in solitude, in reliance. So if Allah has reduced your circle, if He has removed certain people, if He has brought silence into your life, do not assume weakness, do not assume failure. This may be the season where your heart is being strengthened in the only way that lasts. By learning that Allah alone is enough. And once your heart truly understands that nothing in this world can take your peace away. My brothers and sisters, if there is one truth to carry with you, let it be this. People will come and go, circumstances will change, seasons will end, but Allah remains. Do not measure your worth by who stays, who leaves, or who chooses you. Your value was written by Allah before anyone ever knew your name, and it does not decrease when hearts change or paths separate. If Allah has taught you to stand alone, it is not to weaken you, it is to return your heart to its rightful place, to free you from dependence, to protect your peace, to rebuild your strength. Focus on yourself by strengthening your relationship with Allah. Stay alone when necessary, without bitterness or pride. Detach without hatred, trust without fear. And remember, the heart that relies on Allah is never truly alone. May Allah grant us hearts that are firm in trust, calm in hardship, and free from attachment to anything that distracts us from Him.